All right. So good evening or good morning, everyone. And I hope you're all doing great. Thank you so much for joining today's session, and I hope you will enjoy it. So this is Emira, the Education USA advisor for Libya. And I'm happy to have with us Mr. Nate from Colorado State University, who will walk you through, how to prepare yourself to study in the United States. So if you have received an acceptance to any US college or university, or if you are planning to apply to an American higher education institution, this session is definitely for you. So today you will learn how to prepare to study in the United States, and you will learn more about the international students' journeys, classroom culture, adjusting to life in the United States, and also you will be able to ask any questions you have to our amazing guest speaker. So before we start, I would like to start with a brief introduction about our network, Education USA. So who are we and how can we help you? Education USA is a US Department of State network, which means we are your official source if you are interested in pursuing your undergraduate or graduate studies in the United States. So we are located in more than 170 countries and territories. So if you are following us from Libya, and if you want to start the process of applying to US universities, you can reach out to me. But if you are following us from a different country, make sure to reach out to the Education USA Center of your country and have book a meeting with the Education USA advisor. So we offer free and biased, accurate, and impartial information about all accredited universities in the United States. How can we help you? So number one, we offer free public info sessions. So if you have any topic in your mind that you would like to learn more about, you can suggest that to me, but you can also explore all of the sessions that we had on our Facebook page or on the YouTube channel. And that will help you also to learn more details about how to apply, to learn more details about scholarships, to learn more details about, maybe essays or supplemental essays or the visa process and much more. Number two, we do some chat sessions with university representatives, just like today's session. And that's a great chance for you to learn more about universities in the US and to e-connect with the representatives and ask your questions, and why not apply to those universities. Well, we also do some sessions with Libyan alumni. So if you are a Libyan student who maybe studied in the United States and you'd like to share your experience with EduSA followers, make sure to send me an email and I'll be more than happy to maybe schedule a session with you. And number three, we do individual consultations. So if this is your first time to join us, maybe through Facebook or Zoom, make sure to reach out to me. And this is my WhatsApp number. This is my email address. So we can have a Zoom meeting if you are a teacher, if you are a student, if you are a parent. That doesn't matter. I am here to help, to assist with anything you need in order to learn more about studying in the United States. So we are very active on social media. Just type Education USA Libya and you will find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And last but not least, this is the official website of Education USA. So make sure to go to educationusa.state.gov to learn more about the 5 steps or to find your advising center if you are following us from a different country. Also to explore the different financial aid opportunities from different universities, and also to check the events that are taking place at different EduSA centers. Again, welcome everyone. Make sure that this is a recorded session, so you will find it on our Facebook page, and we will make sure to upload it on our YouTube channel. Now I'm going to turn it over to our guest speaker, and make sure to prepare your questions, and we will answer all of them at the end of the presentation. Over to you, Nate.
All right, thank you, Amira. I think I'll share my screen real quick, and then we'll get into the presentation here. All right, can you see that? Perfect. All right, well, hello everyone here in the Zoom and out there on Facebook. Like Amira said, my name is Nathan Duggins, and I am the International Recruitment Manager at Colorado State University. Basically what that means is I try to get more international students to attend Colorado State. So I do a lot of recruitment. I travel a lot internationally. I've been to multiple countries over the years. I've been working with international students for I was doing the math, it'll be 8 years next month is how long I've been working. And over those years, I've kind of seen some themes develop as students think about and then begin their transition from their home country to coming to university in the United States. So I don't want to take a ton of your time today. I'm not going to talk to you for the next hour. I'll talk to you maybe for the next 30 minutes. And then open it up for some question and answers if you do have more specific questions about what I talk about. So moving on, what are we going to talk about today? And before I go into this, I want to really emphasize that because the United States is such a large country, you can think of it as kind of one family that has 50 different personalities, that I'm talking, today kind of in generalizations. So what I say, doesn't necessarily exactly apply to every situation, but just kind of in general, what are some differences between the US, and what can you expect in the US versus, what may be normal in your home country or your region. Your university structure, wherever you're coming from, might be very similar to the United States. And so what I say here today might not be different than what you're used to, or what I might say here today could be very different. But understanding kind of the norms of how we operate, I think it can kind of help that transition. But please understand that because we are such a large country, that I am speaking kind of in generalizations. So first thing, culture shock, I don't know. I'm assuming a lot of you have heard it, but what is it? Is it coming if you transition to a new country? Yeah, it probably is. So let's talk about how to navigate that. Kind of talking about American culture, again, kind of a hard thing to define, but I'll do my best. I think individualism in the American family, the reason I bring that up is because it in my experience traveling, the world over the last close to a decade, kind of family dynamics and family structure in the US are very different than outside of the US. And so that kind of impacts your cultural experience as well. So that's why I threw that in there. And then what does the American college environment look like? How do we structure it? And what are our norms? And how is that going to impact you, and kind of what your preconceived notions are, what you're used to, or your expectations of what an educational system should be. So that's kind of a breakdown of what I'm going to talk about. And then at the end, I am going to spend a couple minutes talking about Colorado State University specifically, and then we can open it up for questions and answers. And looking forward to those and answering anything. Nothing's off limits. I know the US has had a lot going on here in the past couple years. So please let me know, what your questions, comments, concerns are. So hopping right in, what is it? I know this is a pretty text heavy thing, but I'll just kind of go through this overview. Culture shock, very simply, is the feeling of being out of place in an environment that you're not familiar with. One thing that I talk to students, I don't like to shy away from this. I think students, if they're studying in another country, you're just very simply going to experience this. Some students experience it to lesser degrees, and if you think about it, how could you not? If you're coming from Libya or whatever country to the United States, new country, new city, new way of life, new educational system, it's almost impossible for you to not experience some degree of cultural shock. I'll use myself as an example. I'm born and raised in the US. I moved to China for a little over a year, and I was somebody that was pretty well traveled because of my job. And I still experienced a certain level of culture shock. It's just nobody's really immune to it. And that's okay. It's a normal thing. And usually the progression of culture shock goes something like this. You move to a new place, in this case, let's say the United States, to go to school. You are super excited because it is exciting. You're about ready to start this new chapter of your life. And then that initial excitement, maybe after a month or two, kind of wears off. And you wake up every day and you're like, oh my goodness, where do I buy my groceries? Where do I go practice my religion? How do I do these normal things that I took for granted in my life back home that now aren't normal where I live? And then that's when kind of this feeling of, longing for home, or you're like, wow, this is a bigger hurdle than maybe I initially thought. That is okay. That is going to happen. It is totally normal. Every university in the US is going to have resources for you to try to, to help you get past that. There's going to be some tips that I'll give you at the end that I think in my experience are going to be very good to get past this as well. But again, like I said at the beginning of this slide, I don't want to sit here and condemn culture shock. I don't want to talk about it as this really bad thing. I kind of want to normalize it because I think a lot of students do experience this, and that's okay. and we're here to help you kind of get through that. And if you understand that it's coming, and like the last bullet point on this slide says, if you're somebody, willing to leave your country and go study, you're already kind of, have the mentality and the courage to embrace a new situation. And so you're kind of already set up to get over this initial culture shock that may be coming your way. So moving on to the next slide here, American culture. You'll notice that this is a very short slide because, like I mentioned in my intro, it's a hard thing to encompass. What is American culture? But one thing I think is important is to go back really a long ways historically to our foundation, and it was really people from Europe who wanted to leave Europe because of religious, political, or economic reasons, and start a new culture in what eventually became the United States. And so we almost have this foundation of rebellion and individualism. And I don't say rebellion in a negative way. I know a lot of times that has a kind of a negative connotation to it, but it was a collection of people that said, nope, I don't want to do that. I want to be my own person and practice my own values. So we're going to go across the water to this big mass of land that used to be the US. And I think individualism is a really big, and I know a lot of countries have this now to a degree, but it really is a defining characteristic of the United States. You can go out and be whatever you want to be. You as a person can kind of, break the norm and go and do whatever you want to do if you have the drive and the work ethic to do so. And a lot of that comes from, the original people that came here were folks, kind of breaking away from a way of life that they didn't necessarily agree with. So that is a very short minute and a half breakdown of what American culture is. It is a lot more than that. Like I said, we can think of us as one big family with 50 different personalities. But kind of as a whole, on average, that could be kind of a way to define us. And if we continue that, and again, I think this is really important, especially with international students, kind of the family dynamics in the US, because of the kind of individualistic nature of our society, it results in what can be interpreted as less kind of family cohesiveness that you're used to maybe in your home country. Where the norm might be, somebody could be, 25, 30 years old, they're living in a house with their parents, their grandparents, and maybe other family members. That is not very normal here in the US. It is almost kind of an expectation that, you graduate secondary school, maybe you live with your parents a little bit during college, but certainly once you graduate from a university, you leave, you go and you do your own thing. With not the intention of ever really returning back to your parents' house or your grandparents' house and living with them. I only bring that up because in my travels and experience with other cultures, that is a big norm where you live with the parents and you live with the grandparents for a long time, if not your entire life. And in the US, it's not really a normal thing at all. And I'm not saying one way is better than the other, but it does kind of give you an idea of this individualism culture that I brought up in the previous slide. This is just another example of that. And kind of the third slide is we have this kind of the blended family of what we have step parents or step siblings, kind of siblings or parents of like separated, if a husband and wife gets a divorce and goes and gets married again and has children, so we have this culture of, blood family members and non-family members kind of coming together and being part of one family, which again is in my experience, pretty unique or different than maybe the rest of the world might operate. But I just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of a background of kind of how we navigate our society and navigate our family structures, because that does have a lot to do with kind of how we are defined as a culture, which may be different than the culture that you are coming from. So how does that transition into like an American university system? Well, before I get into kind of the specifics of like the cultural impacts, I wanted to talk about kind of how we're structured. Now, again, the US, so big, so many universities. You have your large public universities like my institution, you have your small private universities, you have your 2-year community colleges. So there's so many different types of institutions that I tried to pick kind of themes that could be applicable to all of them. And I think I did a decent job of doing that on this slide. But the first one, and again, I don't know what it's like in Libya or whatever country that you may be coming from, but really one of the kind of defining characteristics of really what I would call North American universities, and really more specifically the US and Canada, are the flexible education options. Mexico's a little bit like this as well, meaning you can come in and this, when I talk to students across the world, they're kind of blown away by this. But again, I don't know if this is a normal thing for you. Offering a flexible system that doesn't make you declare your major right away. When I talk to a lot of international students, they, like, in their mind, it's a really hard concept for them to grasp. Like, I need to know my major right away. I need to declare it, and I need to study it like the second that I get on campus. And you can do that. I mean, I'm not saying you can't. There are a lot of students that do. What I am saying is that our system is set up for you to not have to do that. Because the idea behind it is, you're 17, 18, 19, if you're a graduate student, 20 plus years old, coming in, trying to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. It might take you a year or two of taking courses in order for you to figure that out. You might think you like something, and then you take a course in it and you realize you don't like it at all. And so that's kind of what the American system is built on, is it gives you 1 to 2 years of taking classes in a bunch of different academic disciplines before you're able to choose your major. And that's a pretty normal thing. On the other side, if you're a graduate student going into a master's or PhD program, we do kind of expect you to know what you want to study, because those programs are shorter and they're more focused. So on the graduate side, yeah, you do come in and study your specific academic area right away. But on the undergraduate side, you don't. You can take classes in a bunch of different areas before deciding what you want to do. Next up, class participation. This is a very big thing in the United States. It's an expectation that you participate in class, whether that's engaging with the professor, whether that's engaging with your classmates. You're encouraged to take part in the class discussions. And oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, a small percentage of your grade is based on how much you participate in class. This is usually more true at smaller universities where the class sizes are smaller. That expectation is absolutely going to, or the expectation of you participating in classes is going to be there. And then, last but not least, just very quickly about the grading system. It's based on GPA, grade point average. I know a lot of countries, the grade is based on like a final exam, taken at the end of a semester or at the end of a year. We do that to an extent, but really your grade over the course of a semester is the culmination of class attendance, class participation, projects, quizzes, and then there might be a final exam that does account for a certain percentage of your grade, but not the entire percentage of your grade. So it's, your grades are the accumulation of your work over the course of a semester. So I think that's something important to kind of understand about our structure. And then just kind of, again, I'm speaking in generalities here, but what is the US, the American college environment? And kind of on average, US students tend to take on a lot of work outside of the classroom. I mean, obviously, the main focus of coming to any university is graduating and getting a degree. But a lot of students here do things like extracurricular, like clubs and activities, or social activities as well. So there is kind of this normalization of, we don't want you just to go straight from, your house to the classroom and back and forth, and that's all you do is academics. Obviously, academics are super important. We want you to do well in the classroom. We want you to get a degree, but there's almost this expectation that you're going to do things outside of just your academic studies. For better or worse, the focus on individual achievements, they're kind of conditioned, and the drive to do or be successful in as many things as possible is it's kind of a thing here. Again, for better or worse, that's not always a good thing. You don't want to push yourself too hard where you're not successful. You want to make sure to kind of find that work-life balance, which is really important. And again, the last bullet point here, for better or worse, the drive to make money is kind of a big deal in the US. And you'll see a lot of students kind of setting themselves up to be able to market themselves to the workforce once they graduate, which kind of leads back to bullet point number 1, why students might get involved with extracurricular activities or social activities, because that helps build their resume when they go apply for jobs. Not everybody does this. A lot of people do the extracurriculars and the social activities because it's fun and they enjoy it. But a lot of it in the back of the mind of students is, well, this is going to look good on a resume and it's going to help me, get a job easier than or it's going to help me beat out the other applicant or something like that. So there's kind of that sort of cultural focus when students think about what they're going to do after college. I will say at Colorado State, I just as an example, we do have a career center that helps international students specifically, because there is kind of a different process, right, with visa regulations or with immigration regulations. So, helping you find institutions that even sponsor a work visa for international students, or helping you get on OPT or stuff like that, kind of helping you navigate this immigration process that is very unique to international students that US citizens and permanent residents don't have to go through. Kind of culturally in the classroom, and this is, again, it kind of all depends on where you're coming from, but I would say it's a lot more, I guess, casual is the word that I would use. Students, it's not like we go in and students are wearing, they're all dressed up and the professor's wearing a suit and tie. That's not the case. I mean, sometimes you could walk into a classroom and not know who the student is and who the professor is, because everybody's dressed alike. It's very casual. They act casually with one another. It is very uncommon for students just to kind of speak without raising their hands, kind of blurt out a point, address the professors by their first name, debate classmates, debate professors, bring food and drinks to class. It is a pretty casual environment. The professor, usually the first day, certainly the first week of the course, will sort of set this expectation, saying, hey, you can come in. I don't care if you bring food or drink, just don't disrupt other students. Or, hey, I don't care if you interrupt me during class, but just be respectful. Because if you're debating sensitive cultural topics, you kind of run the risk of maybe being offensive. And so the professor will right away set an expectation of what is expected of student behavior in the classroom. But it is very common and expected for students to speak up in class and kind of share their point of view, share their opinion, even if they know that it might not be shared with the professor or the rest of the classmates. And that's okay. I mean, we don't expect everybody's opinion in the classroom to be the same. And we don't want that. We don't want a classroom full of people that all think the same. We want classrooms full of different opinions to create that dialogue and kind of, learn from each other. That's kind of the whole point. Kind of the whole point of culture education right there. So really quickly here, I mean, I'm kind of getting down to my last couple slides before I talk about Colorado State. Tips for adjusting to the classroom in the US. And I understand that these are easier said than done. It's not like you're going to walk in your first week and speak up in class and join a club. But I think over the course of your time at an American university, that these could really, really help you. And the first one, like I just said, speaking up during class. I think international students have such a unique perspective to bring to the classroom. I mean, if you think about being in a room with somebody from Colorado, Texas, California, China, Libya, I mean, think of the conversation that you could have in that classroom. I mean, that is just so cool for me to think about, like, just the different perspectives. So I know it may be intimidating at first, but if you can have the courage to speak up, that I think it's really going to enhance your experience. If you don't understand something, ask. It seems pretty simple. I mean, the professor is not going to get mad at you for asking, them to clarify a point. If you're not a native English speaker, that's okay. I mean, US universities, especially, we have 34,000 students at Colorado State. I mean, our students, our US students are used to, hearing accents and people who are not native English speakers. There's a lot of them on our campus. I know that's easy for me to say as a native English speaker, but I can assure you, I mean, I've been to a lot of our classrooms here at Colorado State, and it's the norm. And if you can just find the courage to do it, I think it'll help a lot. Kind of with bullet point number 2, asking the professor, if you're not comfortable, the professor will hold office hours where you can just go talk to them one-on-one. That's something that I encourage you to do. I mean, you're going to come across a situation, you're going to be in a class where you're not going to understand something. Like, you're not going to understand every academic concept in every class that you go to. I mean, that nobody does. That would be pretty abnormal. So if you need help, go get it by either asking in class or going to office hours for that particular course. And then finally, go to class. I mean, you got to go to class. As I mentioned earlier, your grade in the class, or a percentage of your grade, will be based on attendance. Most universities track this. And so they know if you're not going to class. If it's a smaller institution, they'll probably reach out to you and say, hey, how come you're not coming to class? Because, if you're in a class with 10 to 15 students, it's pretty easy to tell that you're not there, and they'll probably reach out to you. So attending class regularly is a very easy way to kind of acclimate yourself to the US classroom. And then, tips about US culture. Again, it kind of depends on your location, but I mean, first and foremost, you need to talk to your friends and family back home. You absolutely need to do that. Scheduling time with them to chat, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly or monthly, whatever it is, but having that tie back to your home, or a tie back to an area that brings you comfort, do that. I mean, I think that's an incredibly healthy thing to do. I think learning about the region is also really important. You're going to learn a lot about your university, a lot about the campus, a lot about the town you're in. But I think learning about, kind of the neighboring cities or the neighboring area helps a lot. It kind of makes you feel more connected to the area, which is something, and getting out and being able to explore just beyond the campus is something that, in my experience with working with international students, they have said is really, really helpful. The next 2 bullet points, socialize on campus and join clubs, they're kind of the same thing. I think joining a club, honestly, if I had to pick one thing on this list to do when you get to a university, I would say join a club. Would be the best thing to do, because it's going to be a non-academic thing. So it kind of gets you out of the classroom and gets your mind away from studying all the time. And it's also going to be able to engage you with other people across campus that maybe aren't studying in your major. So that's something that's really easy to do. There's also social events. I mean, right away when you get to campus, you'll probably notice that there's a lot of events for international students. Every institution, every university is going to do this, because we know, we know you're coming from across the world to come here. And so we want to try to make you as comfortable as possible. And then the final bullet point is kind of learning your limits. And it kind of goes back to what I was talking about, kind of the average American student really pushing themselves in a lot of different areas, which is good to a point. if you're pushing yourself beyond your limits, then you're not helping yourself. I mean, you're not going to be happy socially. You're probably not going to be doing well academically either. And so I think learn your limits and give yourself some time to learn those limits. I think a lot of times international students come in and like it's exciting for me to see because they want to jump right in and they want to learn everything and do everything right away. And the acclimating to a new environment takes time. I mean, it might take you a year to really feel comfortable, and that's okay. Like it's not something that should happen overnight. I mean, if I moved to Libya, I'm assuming it would take me a while to kind of navigate life and figure out the day in and day out routine of until I feel normal. And so when you're coming to a US university, wherever it may be, I think it's really important to kind of understand that it's going to take time. You're probably going to experience a little bit of culture shock, and that's okay. But just kind of be graceful with yourself and know that these things take time and that's all right. And there's resources on campus to help you out. So with that, Amir, I might just share a couple slides with CSU if that's okay.
Of course, yeah.
So I'm gonna talk about sorry, it froze on me.
And at the same time, just like to remind the students right after, the short presentation about CSU, make sure to prepare your questions. So I received a few questions here in the Zoom. So they're like direct messages to me. So feel free to type your questions to everyone, or just raise your hands if you have any questions ready. And I also received some other questions on the Facebook page. So yes, keep them coming.
Okay.
It's your time.
Yeah, Amir, my presentation froze. So maybe we can start with the questions, and then at the end, if this unfreezes, I can
Okay.
I can go with Colorado State. So maybe if you have the questions ready, I can start with that.
First of all, thank you so much for the great presentation. Yeah. Okay, so moving to the questions, I'm going to start with the ones that I received here. So we have Ahmed, who's asking, do US universities accept students with a 2.3 GPA or lower? And if yes, how to make the application stand out?
2.3 GPA or lower. I mean, yes, there are universities that will accept that. I think in my experience, kind of the blessing and the curse of the United States is we do have so many universities. So it can be tricky maybe sometimes for international students to like know where to navigate that. But a 2.3 GPA or lower, yeah, I mean, there are some universities that will accept that. How to make it stand out? I mean, I think, a lot of the times, your grades are your grades, right? Like you have your grades, those are kind of solidified. One way to kind of make it stand out would be with maybe a really well-written essay. And by well-written, I mean, we don't expect you to be world-class writers, you're not, but we do expect it to be kind of structured really well, no grammatical errors. I think students would be surprised how many times we receive essays that are very clearly haven't been proofread, or they have the name of another university in the essay. Just kind of little things like that, I think can go a long way towards making your application stand out, in my opinion.
Excellent. Okay. And the next question is coming from Muhammad. So he asked, how good is public transportation in Colorado? And where do graduate students from Colorado State University live? So where do international students who are attending CSU live?
Yeah, good question. Public transportation is very good. There's a bus system that students can use for free. And so that's what a lot of our students use. We are also an incredibly bicycle friendly city. So a lot of our students get around by bicycle. That is primarily how I get around, is by bicycle. So yeah, I mean, if you don't have a car, which most of our international students don't, it is really easy to get around, mainly either by bicycle or via the bus system. Where do international graduate students live. We have international student, housing right across the street from our campus. So either they can live on campus in our residence halls, or right across the street, we have more kind of apartment style living. So whether it's just you, or if it's you and your spouse, or if you have children, we do have accommodations for all of our international students, kind of irregardless of what their family situation is. So we do have accommodations for you.
Interesting. Okay. Let me ask a question that I received on the Facebook page. So there is a student or a potential graduate student who's asking about if there are any graduate or fellowships or assistantships available at CSU. And of course, what are the requirements to get them? And she also asked, is it possible for me to teach Arabic, even though like she's not going to major in Arabic, but Arabic is her, first language.
Yeah. So the assistantships or the fellowships is a good question, and it's one that every student asks, and they should ask because it's an important question. So, I mean, yes, very simply, yes. We do have assistants and fellowships. We have around about 100 different graduate programs, and the requirements for the assistantships are different for every single one. So every single academic department has their different requirements for their fellowship. So kind of to dig deeper into that, let's say you take an MBA, Master's of Business Administration, versus a Master's in Mechanical Engineering. So the College of Engineering has more funding than the College of Business. That's just that Colorado State, that's just how it is. They have more money to give away. So the assistantship within the College of Engineering is going to be bigger within the College of Business. And because those two colleges control their own funding, they can control how they review and award assistantships. So when you ask, like, how do you get it, there's 100 different answers to that, because it's all based on the different individual academic departments. So the point I'm trying to make is, no matter where you're going, whether it's Colorado State or wherever, if you are looking for assistantships at the graduate level, your best bet is to reach out to that specific department. I mean, I can help you. I can put you in touch with that department, but there is not, or very rarely is there kind of one uniform way to get assistantships. And that's because in the United States, when you're applying to graduate programs, each individual graduate program controls its own funding, and therefore controls how they give away their assistantships. So that was a very long answer, a very long way of me saying that your best step forward is to reach out to the departments that you're interested in and ask them how to navigate the assistantship process.
And that's a very good tip. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Okay, moving on to the next question. So from the Zoom, we have someone who's raising his hand. So Al-Muntasar, the floor is yours. Feel free to unmute yourself. Abdussalam Muntasar, can you hear me? Okay, so let me just go to the question that we have from Taima, and it's about scholarships for international students. So does CSU provide scholarships for potential undergraduate students? Because I know that Taima is a potential undergraduate student.
Yes, we do. So at the undergraduate level, the scholarshiping is different. If a student is admitted to Colorado State, like at the undergraduate level, they are automatically considered for scholarships. So there is no separate application. Our scholarships range from $2,000 to $12,000 per year. We look at academic factors, we look at your essay, we look at what educational curriculum did you come from. So we do look at your academics for sure to award scholarships, but it's not solely based on academics. But it is important to know that if you apply to a bachelor's degree at Colorado State and get accepted, there is nothing else you need to do from a scholarship standpoint. You will automatically be considered, and we try to give you your scholarship award or notify you of your scholarship amount within 14 days of you receiving your admissions offer. So we try to let you know pretty quickly so you can kind of make the best choice moving forward, in terms of finances.
This is very interesting. Thank you. We have a question about the GRE. So Mohammed asked, does CSU consider, a not very impressive GRE score if a student comes from, a low presented country?
Potentially, yes. A lot of that depends on like the program to which they want to apply to. The GRE is just one factor in the application process. I mean, there's a reason we make you submit the GRE scores, letters of recommendation, personal statements, resume. A lot of times when students say, I don't have a good GRE score, the GRE is actually pretty good. They just have really high expectations for themselves. But really, again, kind of going back to my response about assistantships, when you're applying to grad programs, your best path forward is reaching out to those graduate programs. But what I can say is, yeah, they will look for things outside of just a GRE score.
Amazing. And one last question from the Facebook, and then we will move on to the presentation about CSU. Oh, and also we have someone who's raising his hand. Well, thank you guys for asking the questions. So someone is asking about the intensive English programs at CSU.
Yeah, so we offer one. It can be either 1, 2, or 3 semesters long. So it follows kind of our academic year. So our academic year is broken down into a fall, spring, and summer term. And our English language program follows those same terms. So how it works is you will come in your first week, you take a placement exam. And basically what this is we're trying to judge your level of English. Because if you have a decent level of English, we don't want to start you out in level 1 when we can start you out in level 2. So we do a placement exam, and then based on that, we place you into the correct level. And then whatever level you place into, that kind of determines how long you are in the program. So like I just said, we have 3 levels. Each level is a semester long. So at most, you could be in the program for 3 semesters, or depending on where you place, you could be in it for 1 semester if you place into level 3, for example. But yeah, we do offer an intensive English program here at Colorado State.
Amazing. We also received another very good question from Facebook, Nathan. So thank you for spending your time with us today. Yeah. Okay, good then. So someone is asking about Duolingo. So he said about US universities who accept the Duolingo, sorry. Does it affect the possibility of my admission if I have Duolingo English test instead of the IELTS or the TOEFL? Like, do US universities have preferences when it comes to this?
Great question. I'll answer that kind of overall, like a United States answer, and then I'll answer it specifically Colorado State. So more and more universities are beginning to accept Duolingo. I think the US was always headed in that direction. And I think that COVID kind of pushed that forward very quickly because IELTS and TOEFL centers shut down across the world. At Colorado State, if you're applying for a bachelor's degree, we do accept Duolingo. If you're applying for a master's degree or a graduate degree, so master's or PhD, they do not accept Duolingo. So this is, and I understandably confusing for international students because, like I just said, we're one university with 2 different Duolingo policies, one for our graduate students and one for our bachelor students. So your best path forward would be to reach out to, or if you go on the websites of a lot of these universities, they'll tell you if they accept Duolingo or not. We do, like I said, for the bachelor's degrees, but we do not for the graduate students. Really, yeah, it's a really good question.
Yep, thank you. Usema, go ahead.
Hello there.
Hi.
My question is, do you offer scholarships for double majoring?
For double majoring, like at the bachelor's degree, is that what you're talking? Getting two
Yeah.
bachelor's degrees?
Yeah.
Yes. So we don't base our scholarships off of how many majors you intend to get. So for example, if you applied to Colorado State and we gave you, let's say, a $10,000 scholarship, that scholarship would apply, every single year, or really every single term, whether you got one major or two majors. So the decision to double major is up to you. You can absolutely do that, but it wouldn't impact the scholarship you get. Meaning we wouldn't give you less or more of a scholarship because you told us that you would like to double major. I don't know if that answers your question, but we don't have specific scholarships for students who are intending on double majoring.
Like, I mean, like, if you like, for example, if you're having a double major, can you like have like like two scholarships separated for each major or something like?
I understand. No, we wouldn't do that. We would just give you one scholarship. We wouldn't give you one for each particular major. So you would just have one scholarship that applies to your tuition bill every semester. Yeah, and we wouldn't separate, or we wouldn't give you two, because if you eventually chose to do a double major.
Does that apply for all U.S. universities?
I mean, I hesitate to speak for all U.S. universities, but my guess would be, yeah. I mean, most universities would probably say, okay, here's your scholarship. You can attend Colorado State for this scholarship or whatever university it may be. And then if you go and choose to double major, that's fine, but they wouldn't then go back and like apply two scholarships to both of those majors. It would just be one scholarship, and then you decide what you want to do with your kind of academic career.
Oh yeah, I got you, but what about if it was like a merit-based scholarship? Would it like pay the 100% of the two majors, like the fees of them?
It depends. Yeah. So merit-based, and I do, most of the presentations I do are about scholarships because it's such a, it depends. And I don't like giving that answer because it doesn't really answer your question. So like at Colorado State, we don't pay 100% of your schooling. And not to be the bearer of bad news, but most schools in the US don't pay 100%. The days of 100% funding are unfortunately kind of going away. I mean, there are still schools that do it, but 100% scholarships, it really just depends on what university you're applying to. But it kind of depends on how you look at it, because for those of you out there on this presentation, if you're looking for 100% funding, then that will really help you filter down the universities that you're looking for. Because if you come to me and say, Nate, I need 100%, I'm going to say, well, we don't offer that. Respectfully, we don't offer that. And so now I'm not an option for you. So if you do need 100% funding, that can be a good way to kind of filter what universities that you're going to apply to. And that's where Education USA comes in. They're really good at that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. So last questions. I'm gonna take the ones here in the Zoom, and then we'll just move on to the last part of the presentation. So I have two questions about life on campus. So the first one, I'm gonna merge them together. The first one is, how safe is campus, at CSU for international students? And the second one is, am I required to live on campus as a first-year international student in Colorado State?
Okay. I'll take the second one first because it's easier to answer. All students, international or domestic, all first year, like first time students, so students coming in to get their bachelor's degree, are required to live on campus for 1 year, international or domestic. So yes to that. You have to live on campus for a year. How safe is it? I mean, our town where we are is 175,000 people. So I guess I don't know where you all live, but it's not that big of a place. The campus itself is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like its own little city with its own little security system. We do not have a lot of crime in this part. We don't really have a lot of crime in the state of Colorado, and we have less crime in the part of Colorado where we are. I mean, with that said, I don't want to say that crime never happens. I mean, I think the biggest crime in our city is like bicycle theft, which is, you know, not a lot of people are getting hurt when a bicycle gets stolen, and that's only because so many people ride bicycles here. But pretty safe. I mean, we have obviously our police that are part of the city. We also have our campus police as well that just monitor Colorado State. We have safe walks on campus, meaning if you don't feel safe, you can call a police officer and they can walk you across campus to go study or to maybe go back to your residence hall. So, I mean, I guess you'll just have to trust me when I say that it's pretty safe. And one thing I will say is Amira has been to our campus. She has spent some time there. And so, you know, she has kind of firsthand experience of what it's like, but it is a safe city. It is a safe campus. And our international student population generally feels pretty safe when they come here.
And I
Good
totally agree. Yeah. So if you're looking for something that is quiet, calm, very green, I was
Yeah.
impressed by how green it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely Colorado State is the best option. Wonderful. So Nathan, is your presentation ready?
Yeah. Yeah. It
Okay.
kind of unfroze on me. So so this will just be 2 slides, I promise. I just kind of wanted to talk about CSU, and it is not working for me. Can you see it?
Yep, I can see.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Let's do that.
But I can see the notes as well.
Yeah, I know. This is I borrowed this presentation from my
Mm.
from my friend. So let's just do that. Okay. So just a couple slides here about Colorado State. So, you know, I always like to talk about location. I think location is super important. Where you're going to live has a big impact on the type of experience you're going to have. For those that don't know, the state of Colorado is kind of centrally west located in the US. Our capital city is Denver, Colorado. We're about 1 hour from our capital city, 1 hour from the airport. Population of 174,000 total people, with a university the size of like 33,000. So a big portion of our population are students. And I say that because everything in town or in our city is really catered to the students and the student experience, because the university is quite simply the main economic driver of the city. We sit right at the base of the Rocky Mountains, which is the largest mountain range in the United States. Again, speaking to you from a cultural perspective, we are a very outdoorsy state. People move here to get outside and be active and go to the mountains and hike and fish and bike and kind of do all these outdoor activities that maybe aren't as popular in other states that don't have the mountains. So again, I'm not saying you got to come here and get into skiing and cycling, but a lot of people do move here from just because it is a very outdoor, active, kind of healthier lifestyle. Weather-wise, we do have about 300 days of sunshine a year. It's a very sunny state. Yes, we do have winter. Yes, it does snow here. Yes, it's probably going to be a lot colder than where you come from. But we do have all 4 seasons. You know, we're summer right now. We'll transition into fall, September. We'll go into winter, then we'll hit spring. The mountains kind of cause a little bit of a different, you know, it might be a little cooler later than in other parts of the country, just because the mountains create a different climate. But it is very beautiful. It's a very beautiful state. And again, you can just ask Amira, because she was here about 2 months ago. And then just real quickly about our institution. So we have about 200 different programs of study broken down into 8 different academic colleges. So College of Business, College of Engineering, College of Natural Sciences, Veterinary Medicine. All of these 8 colleges are broken down, or these 8 colleges hold our 250 different areas of study. We have a lot of stuff that you can study, which is, if you remember my presentation, why we go back and say you can take classes for the first 1 to 2 years to determine what you want to do. I mean, we have 250 different areas of study, which kind of gives you an opportunity to explore. One thing that I'll talk about is we are a very intensive research university. So we rake in the top 10% of all universities in the United States. So up there with your Ivy Leagues, with your UCLAs, with your University of Washingtons, in terms of how much research funding that we get. Meaning these private organizations, the federal government gives us a lot of money to do research because we're really good at it. What that means for you as a student, I mean, certainly at the graduate, at the master's and PhD level, if you're wanting to do a very research intensive field, you have the facilities and the funding to do so. That can be the case at a lot of universities. What is not the case at a lot of universities is for those research opportunities to trickle down to our bachelor's degree students. At Colorado State, a lot of our bachelor's students are doing research, again, because we have the funding to do so. And you might be thinking, Nate, I don't care. Why does that impact me? Well, it impacts you for when you go to apply to graduate school, and you can say, I did, 2 semesters or a summer internship doing research in some lab, or doing research out in the mountains studying wildlife biology, or in one of our business labs. Like that helps you differentiate getting into graduate school, or it helps you differentiate when you're applying for jobs. And so that's something that I really talk about a lot, because it does truly impact the type of experience you're going to have, and I think kind of has this this positive ripple effect if you do, go into the workforce after your bachelor's degree or continue on to graduate school. But again, I don't want to take a ton more of your time. Tons of research, beautiful location, very safe. We have about 2,000 international students on our campus from over 100 different countries. So we are pretty international. We have students from every state in the US. So in terms of diversity, we have it across the United States and beyond our borders. So I think we're a pretty good option for a lot of students. And so I think with that, Amir, I'll stop sharing and I guess can let you wrap it up.
Yep. So thank you so much, Nathan, for coming today and for providing all of these great resources for our attendees. And I would like to thank everyone for watching today's session. So this is a reminder that you can find the session again on our Facebook page. It's recorded and it'll be available also on our YouTube channel. Keep an eye on our Facebook page events. So we have many more sessions coming this month. And again, if you have any topics that you'd like to learn more about, feel free to suggest it. And I'll be more than happy to prepare a whole presentation about that. Yeah, so enjoy the rest of your day and thank you again, Nate.
All right, thanks everyone. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.